Hello. If you're watching this and you're thinking, what's the setup? What's with the talking Google Hangouts thing? This is actually something that I've had for a very long time in my OBS set up, this chroma keyed out talking avatar thing from Google Hangouts. But I've never had a reason to use it. I thought when I started years ago, literally years ago now, that I would one day have an opportunity to be in Google Hangouts with multiple people talking about things at once. And I quickly decided at some point that I don't like talking to people. So, in true antisocial fashion, I've had this uh, potential Google Hangout setup in my OBS, but I've never actually used it. And since if I didn't have this one right now, it would just be a blank screen. Figured I might as well just use it right now to animate something. But yeah, I'm not doing a stream today. not because I'm not awake at 6 p.m. But because I can't actually stream. I can't use the fucking internet. Basically, I was supposed to leave Serbia on the 1st, and I was turned around at the border of Zurich, Switzerland, uh, for reasons unbeknownst to me and probably all of Switzerland. From what I understand, even though I had an invitation to a third-party Schengen nation, even though I would have been accepted if I had made it to that country, Switzerland not only denied me access to Schengen directly, they denied me a Type A visa, which is just a airport transit visa. Um, for whatever reason, apparently during COVID they changed their rules regarding Schengen, and even if you have a valid entry to your destination country, if you don't have a valid entry to Switzerland, you don't get through, and Switzerland's not open right now. So I got turned around, and by international law, you get turned around to the place you came from if you get denied access from a port of entry. So there's special rules regarding airports and docks and stuff where people come and go from countries. You can't just like arrest people when you try to enter the country unless they actually step foot in the country. You have to let them in first. It's very strange, but I couldn't go to JFK Airport, for instance, even though a flight for JFK was right after I landed in Zurich. I had to go back to Belgrade, or Beograd, or Belgrade, whatever the fuck it's called. I don't know. I still don't know. I don't care. Uh, and my concern was that I had an expired tourist visa here, and there was a very real possibility that I guess I would end up in Serbia, be denied at the border because I didn't have any reason to be in Serbia, and then I guess I'd just get sent back to Zurich, and it would be in fucking hell forever. I would be sent back and forth between these two countries like a ping pong ball for all eternity. And I wanna continue to express my contempt for the Swiss. They are a bastard country. Even in Europe, they don't like them. The only thing that I know about Europeans is that they hate racism unless it's against gypsies and unless it's against Swiss people. Everyone in Europe seems to hate Swiss people. They speak 4 languages and they don't speak any of them correctly. And I don't know. I'm not usually bothered by accents, but Swiss people have a fucking horrendous accent. And imagine me in this airport hotel where they just like they I actually thought it was like a deportation room at first. I thought it was like a room where they stuff all the fucking Arabs in and they say, "Wait here, Arab, while we decide what to do with you." But no, it was actually a hotel, and if I had an overnight layover in Zurich, I would actually have to pay money to stay in this fucking hotel that was like 16 leather sofas separated by curtains in a linoleum room. And that's not an exaggeration. It was 16 leather sofas in a fucking single dormitory room that they called a hotel. I literally thought it was like, the rooms that they put kids in cages in the US for bad people that enter the country illegally. But no, that was actually Swiss accommodation. And then I was hungry, so I bought a hamburger. I would have probably gotten something else. I'm not a big fan of like Burger King and shit, believe it or not. But I had no other option because Zurich Airport has no other food except a single Burger King, which has remained open throughout the entire pandemic. They never close, and it's just one Indian guy who works at that airport, Burger King, and who dispenses 100% of all food within Zurich Airport. And that's not a joke. I'm not making it up. It is literally one Indian guy who works the entire restaurant by himself. And I guess he's making a fucking killing because it was an 18 Swiss franc fucking Burger King meal. And I thought, like, okay, this is just the extra rate that they're charging because it's the pandemic. And they, it's at the airport. They can charge whatever they want because they're the only food service there. No, I was complaining about this in chat on my Discord, and someone from Switzerland, a fucking spy for the Swiss nationals, confirms that no, this is not actually like a special pricing deal that this one Indian guy is charging all of the Zurich airport. That is actually how they price their fucking food. If you go for a hamburger in Switzerland, it is $20 fucking for that hamburger. I can't even fucking believe it. And people think that Switzerland has gun rights. It does not have gun rights. It has gun privileges. If you get a speeding ticket in Switzerland, they will take your guns away from you. It's not this fucking utopia. The only reason why people think that Switzerland is such a fucking utopia is because the press in Switzerland voluntarily withhold making negative news articles about their own country because they know that the entire Swiss economy is propped up by the fucking branding of their fucking flag. That is it. People associate that fucking white plus on red square with the highest quality. The knives and timepieces of Switzerland are above all. And it's not fucking true. They are a fucking shithole country. If you want guns, go to not Czechoslovakia. It's called Czechia now. It's not even called the Czech Republic anymore. It's called Czechia. But Czechia has guns. Sweden is more neutral than Switzerland. People forget that Sweden didn't fucking get involved in World War II either. In fact, Sweden is the protecting power for the U.S. and the DPRK. That's how fucking neutral Sweden is. And now, if you want timepieces, go to Japan. Here's a fun fact that the Swiss don't want you to know. Swiss watches were considered the highest quality because there is a certain type of crystal that they use in watches to regulate time. And for a long while, the Swiss, in their idiocy, believed that you had to get a perfect crystal to put in a watch so that it could hit the seconds perfectly per 1 second. But then the cunning Japanese, discovered that you can take shitty crystals that are fucked up and then just adjust it a little bit so that it still counts 1 second perfectly. And it dropped the price of a timepiece from something, that was a luxury item that few could afford to something every person could have. And the only reason why Swiss watchmakers didn't go out of business is because they fucking tricked people into thinking that Swiss watches were better than Japanese watches. This is completely true. I'm not talking out my ass. The Swiss should have gone bankrupt, but they lied to people, and people believe their Swiss lies. And and if you think that Switzerland is like the base country because it's not in the EU, the Swiss are a part of every single agreement. They are a part of Schengen. They're a part of the economic zone. They're a part of the single market. They're a part of everything. They adhere to all the EU regulations. The only thing that they're not a part of is the European Council. They never joined the EU, so even though they're a part of every sweeping agreement with the EU, they are not represented within the European Council. So they have no say over the regulations that they're beholden to, even though they pretend that they're not in the EU. It's literally just a trick that they've played on their own people to maintain face, so that when they show those fucking maps of countries in the EU, Switzerland is like this carved out hole where they can pretend that they're still neutral, not a part of the EU, but they're under fucking German rule right now. And they can pretend all they want that they're not a part of the EU, but they are. And finally, for reasons to hate Switzerland, all my homies hate Switzerland. If it's just as big a dump as every other European country. Like, if you think that Geneva is not like Paris, maybe it's a little bit better than Paris, because Paris is a massive fucking dump. But if you think that it's better than any other major metropolitan city in Europe, you're just wrong. I've heard stories of old Swiss ladies going to Geneva and crying because of how fucking dirty and multicultural it is. In the airport, the guy, the receptionist, was a French African. It was an Egyptian. Like I mentioned, the Burger King guy was Indian. The only person not multicultural and diverse at the airport was the border guard, who was 100% Swiss and had an annoying fucking accent. And he hit his fucking vowels like a screeching owl. It was just the worst. Listening to that shit. Oh, if you're wondering what that noise is, if you could hear that, that is my 1950s. It's like a 1950s fridge. It's really fancy looking. It looks really cool. I'm in a basement, and like I said, I'm not doing a stream today. I'm recording this because I don't have reliable Wi-Fi. Actually, I'm using the cafe Wi-Fi next door, and I'm not even using like the cafe Wi-Fi directly. I'm using my phone as a tether because my Wi-Fi card in my laptop is like 10 years old now, and it can't pick up that Wi-Fi reliably. And I mean, neither can my phone, but it can pick it up more reliably than my laptop, so that's what I'm using. I've had to move like 3 times this month. I moved at the beginning of the month. The reason why I streamed on Thursday last time I streamed was I had a flight on Friday, and that was when I went to Switzerland. And then I came back, I picked up a thing on Airbnb, and I stayed there for a week, but they said that's the only thing we can give you. After the 15th, you got to find another place. And I only booked to the 15th when I got kicked out of Switzerland, was because I thought that I had heard that Europe was opening on the 15th. I was like, fuck it, I'll try again. And then I looked at it, and they're only open to Schengen countries right now. So I don't know, actually, when Europe is set to reopen. I have some travel plans worked out, and I'll be gone probably until July, because I have to sort something out. And I was just not going to stream today because I have nothing fun to say. Maybe me bitching about Switzerland is funny to someone, but the big things that I have to say are all negative, and I guess I'll get to those. But I figured I couldn't go on vacation or whatever you want to call me, disappearing for a couple weeks without saying hi, and I guess that's what this is. I don't want to get into the negative stuff already. There's something I was gonna say and I completely forgot it. Here I am pre-recording a stream, and I still can't remember everything. I think I'd take the time to write things down. Oh well, I'll probably remember it in a bit. So, when I got back to Serbia, I get in line and I'm nervous because, again, I'm not supposed to be back. And I get there, and there's like 3 guys in a booth, right? 2 of them are processing lines, and one guy's like a supervisor hanging back and watching what the other 2 are doing to make sure that they're not accepting bribes or whatever. And he takes my passport, he puts in like the scanner, which brings up my profile, I guess, with the Serbian border guard. And he looks at it, and he gets like a concerned look on his face because it probably has like a blinking message on it, like "Don't let this guy in," because he just left on the expired tourist visa. And then he opens my book to where my stamps are, and he sees my exit stamp yesterday, the day before, and then he just like gets like a deadpan expression, and he stamps me through. Puts the entry stamp right next to the first entry stamp. One day after the 90-day period had ended, and his supervisor literally like burst out laughing behind him, and he just hands me my book back, and I'm like, thanks. And I walk through. So just that just shows you the average person, a normal human being, confronted with a weird situation versus a Swiss person who is a bureaucratic slave, often referred to. I can't attest to the veracity of the statement, a mountain Jew. But that is the difference between a normal person and a Swiss person. That's how they handle situations. So the big thing that I did this week, I guess, is I complained very loudly. Apparently, me making a post about my feelings about the forum in particular was so interesting to Ralph that he did apparently like a 2 hour long reading of my post with Randbot, which I don't know. I guess it makes me feel good that I gave him something to talk about and be happy about, I guess. He took it as a personal message to him. Me talking about how I think that I'm getting old, that I want to start a family, and I can't do that with the forum as like an anchor. All this other stuff, he took that as a personal indictment, as me capitulating to him. And I couldn't understand how he interpreted this post, which I'm not going to read the entirety of. I summarized it pretty well. How he could take this post and interpret it to mean I'm talking about him. And then I read through it again after this, looking for what he latched onto, and I think it's this line, which is funny. I say, I find myself trapped in a tenuous and unprofitable position, staring down the barrel of 30 years old, in no position or in no better position than I was when I was turning 20 years old. And I have been afraid to say this because I have a large sense of pride, and many people are rooting against me. It has been important for me for years, to save face and maintain stoic defense against opposition. Now, after much reflection, I realize these people I find myself contending against are all in their 30s and 40s, with no personal accomplishments, no wife, and no children. When death finds them, sooner rather than later, they will have left no mark on this earth, and proving them wrong is not something I am concerned of any longer. I think he thought that meant him. I can tell you that was not specifically meant to be Ralph. There's other people, someone in particular, who that's a much more accurate description of. But for whatever reason, Ralph thinks I'm talking about him. So I don't know. He's been very, very angry at me. It's like, I guess because I made a joke at his expense. That's all it takes, I guess. But the post itself is a summary of some things that I've been thinking this year. I was really hoping that 2020 would be a different year. I think if you've been listening since 2019, you would know that I had a much higher, a greater sense of optimism entering the year than any other year before. And I suppose just because it was me being optimistic, the world, the very fabric of space and time, had to bend and warp specifically to spite me. And now we are in what is perhaps the most turbulent year ever. I mean, I want to say that 9/11 in 2001 was, I mean, I guess it was, but really 2001 didn't feel turbulent. After September 11th, it really felt like the government was in control. They had a good idea of what they were doing. We had a unified enemy. American patriotism was at the highest it had ever been since like Pearl Harbor. It was 9/11 was a bigger watershed moment in terms of like things that happened afterwards. Everything went awful because of 9/11. But during 2001 itself, the government and the people of the country were very unified and organized and thoughtful, tactful. The speech that George W. Bush gave on the ruins of the World Trade Center is like famous and genuinely motivating and uplifting. It's something that will go down in history. But 2020 is the complete opposite. You feel like stuff is happening, but everything is so shattered and uh unpredictable. So I would say that this is a bigger, more turbulent year than 2001. The only other year I can think of to compare it to is 2016, specifically because of Trump. But even then, you had clearly divided lines. You had the Trump people and you had the Clinton people, and all the fun that came with partisan politics and people, ruining their families and friendships and communities. 2020 is something else where there is no clear line. I mean, I suppose I support Trump over Biden, but not nearly with the same kind of respect and optimism that I did in 2016. And I don't think anybody does. I don't think anybody's looking at Trump who voted for him in 2016 thinking, yeah, I got exactly what I expected and what I hoped for. And I 4 more years of that. Right now it's just like the other person is like a pedophile, retard, elderly person. I almost want Biden to win over Trump because how much damage can Biden do? Trump, but that's the same thing. It's like Trump would get cop blocked throughout he's going to lose, the House and the Senate, and he's not going to be able to do anything for his entire presidency in the second term. So he's completely fucked. But how much damage could Biden truly do? But it wouldn't be Biden doing things anyway, so who knows? I don't know. I'm remiss to talk about politics because I'm sick of it. And that's kind of what my post says, is that I'm so sick of politics. And I take a lot of that out in the forum. I say that the forum has gotten too political. But really, now that I think about it, I've had some time to reflect on my feelings on this. And I think that the forum held out against being political more than any other community that I can name. We did our best to stay aloof and out of it. And yes, it has become more political over time, but it tried. And during 2016 especially, we were very down the middle. It wasn't a left or right thing. It was people, I think we were split right down the middle in terms of people who actually cared. And then the vast majority just didn't care. And I think that even to this day, the majority of people do not care about politics in the forum. The big thing that happened is 2016. I think after 2016, everything got political. Everything was ruined. Everything was ruined. It's no longer sufficient to be apolitical, and it's not possible to be apolitical. If you say that you're not political, then you've taken a political stance. If you say that, actually, no, I don't want to be involved in this, then you're a bigot. I mean, look at how many companies have Black Lives Matter statements or not anti, but pro LGBTQIP++ rainbow flags on their logos. It's everywhere. It's inundated everything. If you don't put up a rainbow flag on your logo, then you're a fucking bigot. If you don't put out a pro Black Lives Matter statement, then you're a fucking bigot. Silence is violence. You're guilty of something if you don't say something. So, especially with the corporate media, I think that a lot of these companies putting out statements are simply doing the financial equivalent of Passover. They're going out and getting their goat blood or sheep blood or whatever and painting their thresholds red with blood just so that the mob doesn't come in and smash their fucking windows and kill their firstborn. It's literally the Passover of our generation. And because what's the damage? You put out a Black Lives Matter statement and you're like, yeah, I fucking love black people and shit, hashtag Black Lives Matter. What happens? You get free publicity and people won't smash your fucking windows at best. If you don't put out the statement, then nothing happens. Nobody's going to hold you accountable for putting out a statement. Nobody's seriously going to boycott these companies because they have rainbow flag logos and Black Lives Matter statements, And even if they do, it's not possible. It reminds me of this image from a very famous anime artist who's a Muslim, and he puts out anime style Muslim effects and posters and stuff. And he's saying boycott Israeli products. And a number of all the brands that are headquartered out of Israel include like every major fast food company, every brand of food, it was thousands of different things that people use every day. And it's like, you literally can't. You're not at liberty to boycott all these products. You just can't go through life in a convenient fashion and use, and boycott this shit. So, I mean, with this is the same thing. How do you protest the politicization of everything? And the answer is you can't. Everything's just going to get worse forever. And I think a lot of my sentiments are, I just don't want to be involved in politics anymore. And the forum, just like everything else, has to be involved in politics. If I want to not be involved in politics, I would have to be unplugged from the site, which is I guess a benefit. Like, I really didn't plan this vacation to be so soon after me writing this post, but I think my feelings have been mounting on me over the last couple weeks, and I figured before my break it would be a good idea to kind of like lay it out what I'm thinking. And what I've said can basically be summed up in two ideas. Number one, the forum needs to become financially stable. And number two, it needs to become fun for me. And I don't necessarily know, I'm going to be thinking about it while I'm gone, but I don't necessarily know how I want to accomplish these things. I have an idea of how I want to do the money thing, because Dick Masterson lost his payment processor again, and I think it's because of Vordrak, but he's having trouble getting new ones, and he's having trouble getting new ones supposedly because during the COVID stuff, all the payment processors have become additionally restricted to subscription-based services. If your business model is a subscription-based service, you can't get a payment processor. Speaking of, by the way, I'm like, all the t-shirt printing and stuff, all the stickers and stuff, I put on credit because the money for those sales did not ever settle. And I've been in contact with them, and it's been over 60 days since that money was seized, basically illegally, as far as I'm concerned. Definitely immorally. And I contacted them. I said, it's been 60 days. I've not had a single fucking chargeback on any of these fucking orders. Can I please get my fucking money now? Because it's all in consumer debt. And they said, no. Try again in 30 days. And one of them, the fucking authorized.net one, says, please stop calling. Use email only. I'm like, no. My message is going to be fucking heard by a human being who's going to have to listen to me talk for 5 to 15 minutes to sort out my fucking issue, to put in an appeal, to have my funds reviewed to see if they can be released sooner. And I'm going to fucking do it every 30 days. Oof. Oh, that's my phone. That fell. I had it situated on a drinking glass, and it's since fallen into a bowl next to it. They're both clean, by the way. I don't think that's like dirty dishes. Those are like display dishes that they left out for whatever reason. Yeah. So fuck that. Fuck them. And it's just going to get worse. That, especially the money front. Like, you want to talk about things getting worse. That's what's going to get worse. ACLU and MasterCard teaming up to decide, who can basically do business in the United States. Anybody that ACLU lists as someone who does hateful, hate whatever, I don't know, hate something. If you're guilty of thought crime, basically, you will not be allowed to do MasterCard transactions. And if you're not allowed on MasterCard, then you're essentially banned from the global payment networks, because no payment processor in the world does business with credit cards that aren't MasterCard. 45% of all credit transactions go through the payment network MasterCard. 45% go through Visa. And then the other 10% is split up between Diners Club and Amex and shit. So there's it's a private company, and these are all private things. They're private contracts and private terms of service. So it's completely out of your hands. You have no reprisal. You can't sue them. You can't do fucking anything. It's their right to say you can't use our private payment network. So when they start And the whole point of using ACLU is that ACLU is like a trusted brand name for charitable services. So when they say that someone is a hate something, and they can't do business anymore, it takes the number one, it takes the responsibility off of MasterCard. MasterCard defers and says it's the ACLU, and then the ACLU just starts using, its brand, its 50 plus years of civil rights movement stuff to say that they know what they're talking about, and they are just, defunding Nazis and Klansmen and shit. And then you're fucked. You're literally banned from the global economy. You are not allowed to use a credit card. And the governments of the world are tightening up the restrictions on Bitcoin in unison because all of them recognize it as a threat to their apparatus of power and control. How does the U.S. exert power and influence right now? It uses sanctions. Iran pisses us off, we sanction them. DPRK pisses us off, we sanction them. Russia pisses us off, we sanction them. Crimea, we don't recognize that as part of Russia, so we sanction Crimea. It would be illegal for me to go to Crimea and buy shit there because that would be me doing business in Crimea during a time of economic sanctions. That's just how we penalize people. How do we deal with terrorism these days? We fucking don't try and kill them all. We just try and fuck with their money. We stop money laundering to terrorist organizations or organizations that we deem terrorism. What's the significance of Trump declaring Antifa a terrorist organization? It's not that he's not going to go up and round up every guy in a black and red outfit, that looks like they're a 30-year-old liberal arts major. No, the issue is that now Antifa organizations can't receive funding because they're going to be banned from these payment networks. It's an economic warfare. And it's been happening since the days of FDR. I had a conversation with a fucking Vice journalist, and I don't know why I talked to him. I guess because I needed my therapy. But I told him, I said, the way that this is going to move forward, if you really want a story, because I think he was interested in my post, and I don't know why. His idea was shit poster gets tired, and I think that's shit. I told him, if you want a story, write about how every single thought and idea is going to be policed through economic means. And I specifically cited Father Coughlin. If you don't know who Father Coughlin is, he was an Irish-Canadian priest for the Catholic Church. He became an American, and I think he was out of Michigan. I think he was based in Detroit, back when Detroit was a nice place to live. And he became the first radio personality. He basically invented talk show radio, or political radio. It was like when you're driving down the highway and there's no FM frequencies and you go to AM and you're listening to these random fucking people talk about politics you've never heard before. He was the first, and he had a syndicated radio show of something like 30 million households at his peak. And he was pro-Hitler, pro-Nazi Germany, anti-war. And he became anti-FDR when FDR became pro-war. So what did FDR, president of the United States for 4 terms, do to this priest when he started talking negatively about him on the radio? He rescinded his broadcasting license, and when Father Coughlin went back to writing his newspaper called Social Justice, ironically, FDR banned him from using the postal service. And I guess the argument would have been, if it had gone to court, that he was never denied his freedom of speech because he could still go out into the street center and talk about the things he wanted to. But effectively, yes, he was very much so denied his freedom of speech because he couldn't express himself in a popular means. He was denied access to the to radio, and he was denied access to sending fucking newspapers through the mail. Explicitly by FDR, the president was able to do this. And it's the same thing today. We don't literally get shoved into a bus and carted off to some fucking camp, some FEMA camp like they would do in China, for expressing unapproved political viewpoints. They simply go after your means to communicate, and they go after your finances, and you'll continue to see things like that escalate. And you will continue to see the criminalization of cryptocurrencies because it's a workaround to get away from this means of control. It's a direct threat to the establishment. And that's what I'm getting too fucking old for. I can't not make money for the rest of my life. And I can't like I would just get a job, but there's two problems with that. Number one, I can't get a job while I own the Kiwi Farms. I can't change my name, get a fake alias, because even if that worked, even if theoretically I could change my name, get an alias, and get a job with one of these companies, someone would eventually find my new name. I constantly have to, like, what if I get sued? I can't not put my legal name on this lawsuit. I have to say who I am. I can't lie because that's perjury. I could get into criminal trouble if I decide to try and hide who I am legally to a court. So as long as I host the forum, I'm at a level of liability to disclose any kind of new persona that I come up with. And I know for a fact that people check for name change records and shit in the US because I filed for a name change a while back. And even though it never went through, people know this new name. Even though I filed it in a city that is not very associated with me. But I guess people just check the records of every place that I go to. So that's funny to me, and it verifies, like, when I've tried to apply for a job and I've gotten to the third and fourth stages of interviews for $150,000 a year careers, and I've been turned down at the last second for unknown reasons. We'll put your profile on record in case we want to ask again in the future. It doesn't matter if it's in the U.S. or not in the U.S. I applied for GOG in Poland, and that got to video conferencing interviews and stuff. And then, sorry, we're going to look elsewhere. We're looking for someone with more experience in JavaScript specifically. And then the other alternative is, or my other point of contention is, if I just I wouldn't have time. Like, the forum takes so much time to deal with, and I have to be ready to, if something happens in the middle of the night and the DDoS happens, I gotta fucking get up and deal with it. So how the fuck am I gonna work 40 hours and then come home and spend half my paycheck on a second job? I'm just not gonna do that. It's counterintuitive to living life, to spend all your time and all your money on something that is large enough that it should be able to financially support itself. If the forum was able to just make money like a regular website, it wouldn't have any problems at all. It would be making so much money just off ads that I could probably hire people to find interesting things and write about them and prepare, podcast talking points and shit. If it was able to be monetized like a normal website, I firmly believe that just based off banner ads alone, if I could run like AdSense in Threads at this point, it would easily make $10,000 a month. Unironically, because when the forum was only getting 100 people, 200 people at its peak, and I was just running AdSense on the forum index and the forums, like the actual boards, the thread list, and not in Threads themselves. I was making over $200 a month with less than 1/10 the audience. So if I could run them in Threads, and if I could run them today with the current level of traffic, easy $10,000 a month. And I'm not just saying that to be avaricious. I'm saying that because it is necessary for my interest in the site. I cannot turn 30 and be in a situation where I'm not making any money. I'm not as financially well off as I was when I was 22 and just leaving my job for the first time. I just can't do it. I can't make that kind of sacrifice for a greater good that really isn't a greater good. It's just a forum. And it really doesn't deserve that kind of sacrifice. The other thing is that what got me to this point, what got me to this level of dedication is I really just am a bitter loser. I didn't want to lose. And it was a lot of fun fighting the system. It was a lot of fun finding ways to make it work after I got kicked from 2 different VPSs due to complaints. The question of how to keep it up and how to keep the site stable became a quest. it became finding ways to do reverse VPNs and or reverse proxies, and testing the jurisdictions of various providers and all this stuff. And then eventually, after I got tired of going from VPS to VPS, I figured out how do I become my own ISP, because it's the owner of the IP that gets all the complaints. So how do I get my own IP address? And then I had to figure out the RIR registries, and I had to figure out how to make enough money to afford the $2,500 a year RIR registry expenses, and then buying my own router and setting that up and figuring out how to get a cabinet at a data center and going to data centers for the first time and setting that up. That was the fun part. That was what was the reward. And now that it's settled, that I've figured it out, I've got the hosting situated, and it's about as stable as it's ever going to be. I'm sitting back looking at it like, okay, well, now what? I've not, all the threats that I thought would pass over time didn't pass. It's the same fucking shit. It is the same fucking people and the same fucking bullshit as 5 years ago, and they're never going to stop. Because in the same way that I find it fun to deal with the bullshit and come up with the solution, they are still churning away trying to take the site down, and they've made less progress than I have, so they have more to do. And so now, in my position of comfort and confidence, I have to look and say, okay, well, how are we going to future-proof this? I can't afford a lawyer right now. I guess I could, if it happened, if I got actually sued, I would have to crowdfund it, and maybe I would be allowed to crowdfund a lawyer. Maybe I'd be able to find a pro bono one. But, a single emergency right now would possibly be enough to just topple everything, because the margins that I've been working on are so razor thin, and they've been so thin for so long that there really isn't any margin. If anything fucks up, if anything breaks, then it just all falls apart immediately. So yeah, there's a lot on my mind, and that's what's reducing my fun factor. And it's definitely not because of New Project 2 specifically. It's definitely not because of fucking Ethan Ralph, who is currently throwing a fucking bitch fit over a fat woman from LA because she didn't clip his rebuttal to my rebuttal. Literally, he's mad at a clipping channel for not clipping his fucking rebuttal to me making fun of his fucking last stream. It's like, no, that kind of person, that caliber of fucking drama is not what makes me remiss. It is everything else, literally everything else besides that. That's the fun part. That's what makes the site worth doing, is that kind of shit. It's everything else. And I'm being serious. If there's anything I fear, it's turning 30 and not having anything to show for it, and looking at it like, oh, I gotta go earn some fucking super chats to eat this week when I'm 30. That's what's terrifying. So I'm not, if I sound all doom and gloom, I'm not giving up, not yet. I have some plans, and I'm gonna make some ultimatums, and if they're met, great. If I actually start making money, then I'll reinvest that into the site. One of the things I wanted to, there's software I want to write for the site still that I can't justify spending the time for, because I got to make money for myself. The one thing I am giving up on is 9chan, though. I give up on that. I'm giving that away to someone else. Probably in July. They own image boards already, but 9chan has an audience. His image board is about the size of 9chan. But very specifically, what I'm just done with 9chan, just because there are people on that site who know me from IBS, who know me from IBS. And I know they know me from it because they use memes and shit that someone familiar with IBS would be using in sequence with like child pornography and dumping pictures of child models and stuff on the site. And They will post, the same guy will post 200 times every single day just talking about how much he wants to fuck kids. And the only reason he does it is because I run the site. And I'm very certain at this point. And okay, that in and of itself would not force my hand to do anything. But the problem is with that kind of behavior, you can't grow the site. The site has been stagnant and it won't grow because if there is pro-pedophile content on the site, normal people won't use it. And it's not possible with the parameters that I've set for how I want my image board to be run to effectively moderate that out of the site. I can't ban someone from a site that allows Tor. And if a guy is willing to sit there and bust out a CAPTCHA code every single post while posting from Tor, just so that he can say how much he loves fucking kids and who his favorite child model is, there's nothing I can do to stop that. If it's a truly dedicated schizophrenic who just fucking hates me, I cannot win that fight. And that I'm definitely not having fun with anymore, just because I can't deal with that unless there is some other prospect for it. It's the same with the forum. It's like if I'm not having fun, it has to make money. If it's not making money, I have to be learning something or doing something or progressing in some other way. If it's just a dead weight, then I'm not afraid to cut things off. I had no issue saying goodbye to things that don't benefit me. It's just how it's gotta be. And it is a dent to the pride, because I tried a while back to start an image board and that didn't work. It was far less successful than this attempt was. But with this attempt, it feels like it had a chance, but it fumbled, and it sucks. But being rid of it, I will have more free time and less stress. I'm just done, because I know as soon as I'm not in control, as soon as I'm not actually moderating it, that shit goes away. Because I've talked to other image board owners who own image boards the same size with the same number of posts per day and shit, and none of them have this problem. It is specifically because there is a pedophile who fucking hates me, who is posting kitty shit, like not even hardcore pornography, just like JC Penney models from catalogs on the site all the fucking time, and to spite me that this is happening. So I was like, fuck it, dude. I'm getting too old for this shit is the appropriate response. The time to be a vagabond with a radical idea set that you're actively pursuing is in your late teens, early 20s. By the time you segue into 30, you're no longer, a renegade. You're a fucking old man. And if you're not actively working to solidify your existence and to reproduce and have a career, then you fucked up. So I'm segueing from renegade internet weirdo to old man mentality. And because I've seen, I've stared into the abyss, and I've seen the fucking people who don't. I've seen what their lives are like. I've seen what's important to them and what makes them angry and what makes them happy. And it terrifies me. I know what the spinster life for a man at 40 years old is like. Again, I'm not talking about anyone in particular, but when I look at people who are that age and who do not have something set up for themselves in terms of a family, they are objectively worse off for it. So my priorities are changing. I've gotten old. I think that's it. The only thing to mention is that there have been leaks from The Last of Us 2. I think it finally came out, and there is a no lube tranny sex scene. There was a part of the game where it looks like Manny, the self-insert for Neil Druckmann, the director of the game, bends over Abby, the trans person who is supposedly not trans, and fucks them in the neo-vag or asshole. Both are disgusting, with no lube. So Neil Druckmann literally had two actors mocap gay anal sex for him to fulfill his fantasy of fucking a masculine-looking trans woman in a video game. And that's funny. That's the kind of shit that makes me laugh. Pixie Terry had a freak out. If you care about Pixie Terry, she's mad that she can't get her own place and is literally recording herself screaming at her father in her living room. And that's funny. Aside from that, everything has been fucking awful. People find that the site's kind of like modeled after this. Right now, because a drug addicted porn star, career criminal felon was killed while high on fentanyl in Minneapolis. There are ongoing riots across the country. Just in case you're listening in the far off future and you have no fucking idea what I'm talking about. A literal drug addicted felon, career criminal, died of overdose while being apprehended, resisting arrest, of course, because they all fucking do every fucking time. There are now nationwide protests, and Antifa in Seattle have literally barricaded off several roads, and they're calling this they're calling this exclave of Seattle the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. They've changed it a couple times because, you know, they're retards, but Chaz sounds better. You can actually pronounce Chaz. The other one is like the Capitol Hill OP. I don't even know what the OP stands for. But I like Chaz. That's what everyone calls it. So they can call it whatever the fuck they want. It's Chaz officially. It's like with ISIS. Everyone likes ISIS better than ISIL or whatever. So we call it ISIS still, even though it's technically not ISIS. Anyways, this anarchy is funny because there's like a garden that's just like neutered. What do you call those GMO crops that don't have seeds when you buy them at the store? They're like neutered plants on top of cardboard on hard soil, and people are running around with sticks destroying shit, and there's homeless people sleeping all over the place. People are literally like dumping clothes and food out on the ground and like saying, take what you want, as a form of charity in this communist utopia. And that's funny. What I find more funny is that, you know, there's like rapes and assaults in this area, and the police are just not responding to them. They just say, go fuck yourself. And another career criminal who attempted to assault a police officer by seizing his taser and shooting him with it was shot in the back in Atlanta. And that officer was charged with 11 different crimes, including murder. And so every cop in Atlanta has just walked off the scene. They just quit. So if you're in America and you don't have a gun and you don't have bullets, you're a retard. These cops are quitting because they don't give a fuck anymore. Why would you give a fuck about... Why would you, as a police officer, being paid absolutely fucking nothing, because you're a barely educated retard with a high school diploma and nothing else, maybe a degree in criminology, you know, earning barely over the taxable threshold, sacrifice, putting yourself out at risk of being shot, murdered, ran over. My grandfather was a cop in Washington, D.C., and his career lasted 2 years because 2 years in, he was beat upside the fucking head with a 2x4, and he was having seizures for a couple of years. So that's the kind of liability that cops are put to, especially because now, you know, because people just fucking hate them. They get ran over on the side of the fucking road all the time because people don't pay attention and just hit them as they're on the curb. So why would you go do that when you can face, you know, criminal charges for it, when people are out for blood? Why would you do that? And I don't buy for a second. If you are a cop and you're listening to this, don't buy for a second you make a difference in your community. Everyone fucking hates you. I fucking hate cops. I literally cannot tell what edgy position I want to take more. That cops should go and kill all these protesters, or protesters should kill all these cops. I think I win either way. Fuck both of you. One side's ruining the fucking country. The other side gives me fucking speeding tickets. When I'm going down the highway, a 70 and a 50, first of all, the speed limit should never be fucking 50 miles per hour on a fucking freeway. Second of all, if I'm the only one on the road, you have no fucking reason to stand there with your fucking gaydar trying to pick up my fucking car so you can give me a fucking speeding ticket. Fuck that. It should be illegal. It should be required by law, by federal law, that any kind of civil penalty like that, like traffic tickets, should be required to go to charity instead of the fucking police department, because that shit is so fucking stupid. And Florida is the worst of it. Doesn't matter where you are in Florida, the fucking Florida Highway Patrol are fucking garbage, and Florida police are by far the dumbest on the fucking planet. They are literally the stereotypical 400 fucking pound looking retarded in his fucking armored vest, rolling around with his gun out, not able to understand complex problems and situations because he's got a sub fucking 90 IQ, high school diploma at best from one of the worst high schools in the whole fucking country, like just a fucking asshole. So fuck cops. All cops are assholes. All cops are bad, ACAB. But at the same time, if a cop mows down, if you're driving a cop car and you drive it through the freeway and there's protesters there and you just knock down 100 protesters, that's also fucking awesome. But really, just quit. Just quit your job. Nobody likes you. Nobody likes cops. Have you ever met someone who says thank you for your service to a cop? No, because all cops are fucking retards. All cops are fucking assholes. Hashtag Black Lives Matter. Hashtag I can't breathe. So please don't firebomb my Kiwi farms. I put out my official Black Lives Matter statement. Anyways, fuck cops. And they're leaving, and you'll have to defend for yourself. You've always had to defend for yourself. The whole thing about cops coming to protect you is a fucking illusion. Buy a gun, because during the minutes where things are actually happening and you have to defend yourself, that's when you need a firearm, not after, not 10 minutes after. And if you think that cops are going to rush in to save you, think again, because they fucking don't. You think about the school shooting, and it wasn't, of course it was in Florida. It was the one with the Cold Steel the Hedgehog guy, the really edgy one, that spawned the mutts who talk about gun control all the fucking time. That shooting, the cop did respond and then just waited out in the parking lot for backup before going in to address the live firing situation at the school. And I think they tried to charge him with, like, child neglect or something really funny and desperate that they hope will stick. But yeah, fuck cops. They're not going to help you. You'll have to help yourself. And really just get the fuck out of the US. The US is going to fall apart. I'm fully convinced of it. I think that you're going to see in the next 10 to 20 years, you're going to see a lot of brain drain from the US. You're going to see a lot of people who are educated fleeing the US to especially Eastern European countries. Because why not? Why would you stay in the US? The whole blood and soil thing, fuck that. What's that? Oh, that's my cue to stop talking. Anyways, why stay? Fine, I'll have to become not a rootless metropolitan at some point, probably in the near future. But there's no fucking way I'm going back to the U.S. What a fucking dump! Once you guys get rid of Section 230 and once freedom of speech goes down the fucking drain, like it fucking will, because all the politicians hate it, there'll be no reason to stay in the U.S. over any other country. Besides maybe the guns, but that's going away too. I'll get a Czech gun. I'll get a Finnish rifle in my hidey hole, and everyone else can eat shit. So with that said, I'll see you guys when I see you. I really don't know how long I'm going to be gone. I'll stream when I have internet and when things are a little bit more stable. But until then, I have a song for you. Take it easy.
Наметом нам свобода дорога. Через прорезь пулемет жаль, ну, как поближе подпущу.